Hello, thanks for coming back for more. Here's step 2 of my 6 steps to writing a screenplay. This time we're doing plot. For better or worse, an event throws a character's life out of balance, arousing in him the conscious and or unconscious desire for that which he feels will restore balance, launching him on a quest for his object of desire against forces of antagonism. He may or may not achieve it. There it is, that's it. Just like how all music is made up from the same 12 notes, if you zoom out enough, this is the structure of story. It's simple, and remember that as we go through the different frameworks that break down the component parts of plot. They exist to help you shape your message while maximising the effect and payoff. There are many different forms you can use to visualise plot, but beyond the semantics they're broadly achieving the same goal. Really, it's down to personal preference when you look to shape your own narrative. The first I'll go through are the 5 elements of story as outlined by Robert McKee: inciting incident, progressive complication, crisis, climax, resolution. For the purpose of this, they align into a 3-act structure. So, you begin with a vision of your world in balance. That doesn't mean it needs to be perfect, because story is about change. So we use this time to demonstrate some of the things that will come to resolve over the course of our plot. So in our film, this is where we show our superhero doing what he does, fighting bad guys and protecting the city. But we'll also need to demonstrate his character flaw, his egocentricity, and how this causes disconnect with the people around him. We should also hint to the audience that his goal, whether he knows it or not, is to find love or friendship or acceptance, so his showboating is motivated by a desire for attention. Then comes the inciting incident, the event in your plot which drastically throws your protagonist's life out of balance. We all kind of get what an inciting incident is. For example, in our superhero plot, this is going to be the moment where he starts to lose his powers. Properly designing and positioning your inciting incident is vital, and there's a lot you can do to really maximise its impact, so I'll cover that in its own separate video outside of this series. For now, we just need to know that once we've set up our character and our world, we need to throw their life out of balance. They need to know that their life is out of balance, and this will point them towards an object of desire. The main turns in your plot happen as we conclude each act, so your inciting incident is the plot turn which completes Act 1. Next, we have progressive complication. This is the meat of the film. It generally takes up nearly half your running time, and as it sounds, things need to get progressively complicated. It's Act 2, striving to reach the goal. Exactly how we move through this is covered more in episode 3 where we discuss rhythm. And again, I'll do a separate episode specifically on the details of this element. But for now, we need to orchestrate a series of scenarios in which we attempt to reach our goal, each time requiring more willpower, and each time due to our force of antagonism, we find ourselves being pushed further from it, now with higher stakes. Often when a film feels slow, it's because the complication is not progressive. If it feels like the action our protagonist takes requires less willpower than what they've already invested, or the stakes are no higher, then the story we're writing is flat. In our film, this section will see our superhero, now without powers, trying to regain his strength, and struggling to overcome the day-to-day challenges his new position now provides. This will take us to our crisis, or rather the crisis decision. This is the ultimate decision above all others. At this moment, your protagonist is faced with the ultimate danger, but also the ultimate opportunity. They must risk it all to have it all. The crisis decision is a very specific moment in a film. We've been constantly ratcheting tension throughout the last hour of progressive complication, working towards a breakneck pace. But then the crisis decision needs to be a very deliberately slow moment. Everything we've been doing until now has been building up to the climax, which is now moments away. So this is a moment of tension for our audience to suffer through alongside the protagonist. We should be on the edge of our seats here, and the moment we've endured this, we're in what's called climactic action, all the way until we turn on our climax. For a writer, climactic action is walking a tightrope. You've built importance and meaning and tension and primed your audience for this white-knuckle moment of emotional catharsis. It doesn't need to be high-octane, not all climaxes consist of fight scenes, but this is that moment where your audience is utterly engaged and invested and holding their breath as your protagonist undertakes action brimming with importance to your plot. And we've all experienced anticlimax. That moment where you're watching a film so engrossed that you may as well be in it yourself, only to find something takes you out of the zone and the experience falls away. Once this happens, it's almost impossible to undo. All this to say, this needs to be handled with care. Usually you want your crisis decision and your climactic action to run seamlessly into the climax. Don't cut away to something else or allow the pace or tension to drop. Don't have your protagonist decide to risk his life and fight the antagonist, then have him sleep on it and stop for lunch on the way. In our selfish superhero flick, this might be where, having found a new life among the people in his city with friends and a love interest, he's failed to regain his powers, but decides to do a truly selfless act. He heads powerless into a final battle with his arch-nemesis in order to save the city and his newfound community. Our climactic action will then be the fight between our hero and the antagonist. Seeing as he doesn't have his powers, it can't be a straight battle, but perhaps he was going to lead him into a trap that would destroy them both. He'll sacrifice everything to gain everything, and in doing so, take us to our climax. This is the point where you finally prove the argument you outlined in your controlling idea. It's the most powerful turn in your script, bursting you into Act 3. The action here should be clear and self-evident and require no explanation. Your audience should, in an instant, understand the huge importance of what's unfolding in front of them. The aim is to tie up as many loose ends as possible in a single action. Like at the end of a magic trick, all the questions you've asked and patterns you've left open for your audience resolve to an ultimate satisfaction. This point is so important to your film that once you've established the broad strokes of your climax, you'll essentially rewrite the story entirely in service of it. Every single element of your climax will need to be effectively foreshadowed and motivated, so you'll now go back through your script and make sure that this is the case. Everything that happens in your climax should do so because of causality, not coincidence. The aim here is to give your audience what they want, but not in the way they expect. The ending should at the same time be inevitable and surprising. So for our film, because we're proving our controlling idea, we know that our hero must accept his vulnerability, and that act must lead to his true connection with those around him. So we can achieve this with him accepting he's not strong enough to defeat his arch-nemesis, but he can sacrifice himself to save the city. Perhaps this means he'll devise a ruse to take both of them into contact with their version of kryptonite, destroying them both. At this point, our climax could be many different things. For example, our protagonist could die, but do so happy he's redeemed his soul, and in return for his sacrifice, the city honours him as a hero. But I'm too sentimental for that, so my taste would probably write that the city itself comes together in one huge defiant action, proving their strength in numbers, and together saving our hero from his demise.
You mess with one of us, you mess with all of us!
But having written that climax, I then need to go back across the entire script and make sure I've introduced both the kryptonite-style trap where this takes place, and whatever eventual collaborative action our city inhabitants can undertake to save the protagonist. Finally, we're left with the resolution.
You're gonna change the world. Good job, right?
This is a moment to resolve anything you couldn't tie up in your climax and to show the impact of the actions we've just witnessed. If the climax shows us what happened, the resolution clarifies what it meant. It's an opportunity to go full circle, look at the same world and characters we saw in Act 1, but demonstrate how they've changed and grown. This is where our not-so-superhero is truly accepted into the community. Not only has he learned the importance of those around him, but through these actions they too have learned the importance of one another. He's come to accept and embrace his individual vulnerability, but it doesn't matter because together they've shown they were stronger than he ever was alone. He's fulfilled now in a way he could only begin to understand when we first met him in Act 1. He's irreversibly changed, and we've proven that vulnerability is important because it helps you connect with those around you. But this isn't the only way to visualise the beats of a story, so we'll quickly run through one more. Blake Snyder's plot outline from Save the Cat is for me the most comprehensive. It perfectly complements the 5 elements of story and goes into more granular detail to help you keep focus. Blake even includes suggested page numbers to hit with each section, and while some criticise its rigidity, I don't think he ever expected a writer to hit these marks dead on. This is a template, a jumping off point to help you organise your journey, and you will doubtless find that while you can try and shape your story to hang off this skeleton, it will be the moments where it doesn't fit that give it its real character. So page 1 has our opening image. Test the palette and show your audience what they can expect in microcosm. Our opening image may be that of a hero who uses his powers to save the city, but alienates the individuals with his lack of humility.
Say, I couldn't hear you over the sound of me saving your life.
Next, our theme is stated. We'll dramatise your controlling idea, often working into a line of dialogue, so someone may say to our hero, all those powers don't make you a good person, or how can you save my life this many times and still make me hate you? It may not be spoken, but just implied, so having seen our hero save the city, we reveal a quiet life of loneliness. This all comes as part of our setup. 10 pages where we introduce the hero, the goal, and the stakes. During this time, you want to have introduced all your characters' tics and flaws, as well as introducing as much as you can about the elements that will comprise your climax. So as well as showing the negative traits of our hero, we also want to allude to a desire within him for love or friendship, which his lack of vulnerability is blocking. Then comes our catalyst, which is our inciting incident, the thing that prompts our eventual journey. Our hero loses his powers, perhaps in battle with his arch-nemesis. Then we have the bait. We establish our protagonist's goal from the inciting incident, but then there must be a period in which we acknowledge their underdog status and the difficulty of the journey they're about to embark upon. Achieving the goal isn't impressive if we don't establish how hard it is to reach. This can be that I can't do it, I'm not strong enough conversation with a side character, or we can dramatise it in their initial actions leading to nothing, sowing the seeds of self-doubt. This could be a section in our story where our hero discovers he no longer has power. We'll devote some time to this realization, then he must fixate on his goal of regaining strength.
For 1,000 years, I've only been thinking of getting my hook and being awesome again.
Perhaps this is an opportunity to look into his backstory and how he got the power originally. Also using the opportunity to see a moment where his flawed understanding of human connection comes from. Perhaps as his powers came originally, his previously unloving parents started to pay attention. It might be neat to have this flashback scene come as he loses consciousness after the defeat in battle, and as his parents finally explain that they see great things in his future, we cut to him waking, broken in hospital.
What's happening?
Once we've established that his power is lost, we can commence his journey to recreate the situation that brought them about in the first place. Inevitably, our character will overcome this debate and we break into Act 2. We leave the old world behind and enter an alien one. These worlds are so distinct that the act of stepping from one into another is definite. The alien world for our superhero is the regular world for us, and having decided to try and regain his powers, this is the world he must navigate to do so.
You're no match for the mighty!
Great, we're set up. Our audience has patiently indulged our laying pipe, so now it's time to change things up for them. We introduce our B story, a subplot which will help us fully explore our controlling idea. This will feel like an elbow in the narrative when we introduce it, but the skill here is ensuring that in time it becomes intertwined with and thematically tied to the events of our main plot. We're exploring human connection, so perhaps it's a love story. Perhaps a lady our hero was rude to in the setup is now the doctor who saved his life. Naturally, she hates him, but we have time to solve that. So bring on the fun and games. This is where we deliver on the promise of the premise of our film. Give your audience the film they expected to see when they saw the poster. This is where we include set pieces to push through our progressive complication. So for our film, we make a superhero play by our rules. He's lived a very particular life until now, so our ordinary is his extraordinary. Perhaps he's never had to eat food to stave off hunger before, or had to wait for traffic to cross the road, or struggled to lift a heavy object. Does he have to get a job, pay rent, deal with flatmates, do a weekly shop, look after children? This is where we enjoy the elements about this story that got us excited about writing it in the first place. But make sure you stay focused on the goal. Each scenario needs to push us forward and raise our stakes, and we should always stay on topic and thematically relevant. So our hero may encounter hurdles where he needs help from others, or becomes aware of his loneliness, or we make progress in our love interest subplot with the Doctor. We can't lose tension here though, so our force of antagonism must be present. Perhaps some sense that the arch-nemesis is planning another attack on the city, and without our hero, no one is there to defend it. He needs to find his strength fast. Then we reach our midpoint. This is where, depending on the type of story we're telling, we either reach a high or a low. If we have a positive ending film, then this is the positive moment, a false victory. If we end negatively, then this is false defeat. Ours is positive, so our false victory may see the powerless hero beginning to find his place in the new world, enlisting a group of sympathetic followers to help him find his former glory. Say they think they found the scientist who originally engineered his powers. But then, the bad guys close in. The force of antagonism regroups as the hero's team falls apart. Across 20 minutes, our hero's seemingly positive situation pulls itself apart piece by piece. We throw everything we have at the situation only to find ourselves as far away from it as possible. He misses his date with the Doctor, and forgets to pick up his housemate's kids from school as he chases his own self-interest, weakening his connection with those around him. Then, as he and his team find the scientist, it turns out they're actually in cahoots with the arch-nemesis. It's a trap and the entire group are captured, and so, all is lost. In a film with a positive outcome, this is false defeat. In a film with a negative outcome, this is false victory. Here we metaphorically kill off the protagonist we started with in order to clear path for the character he will become. It's a place from which he can be reborn. For us, the arch-nemesis is now en route to destroy the city, while our protagonist and his team are held captive. Not only that, but our love interest Doctor and a new best friend housemate hate him for seemingly reverting to his self-centered ways. The next 10 pages are the dark night of the soul. We have experienced the all is lost, and still our bright idea to save the day is nowhere in sight. Here we must be beaten and know it in order to get the lesson. In our film, this may be where the love interest and best friend actually discover the protagonist's shortcomings. He himself acknowledges that they were right, he should never have gone looking for his power after all. In fact, it was never the power he really wanted anyway, it was just his way of trying to get positive attention. But now he's thrown away the positive attention he was getting in order to try and get back his power. But then comes a solution as we break into 3. It works well to have something we learned in our subplot provide the information that leads us to this revelation, thus providing a satisfying connection between the subplot and the main plot. This should also be connected to your controlling idea. Our hero, who began some self-reflection, compliments of the love interest Doctor, realises his arch-nemesis is just like him. They're both crying out to be noticed and appreciated for their power. Realising this, he knows his nemesis would revel at an opportunity to destroy him publicly. With this information, he convinces the scientist to deliver him to the arch-nemesis in the heart of the city for the finale. Here, lessons learned are applied, character flaws are mastered. We turn over the old world and build the new. Our decision to be publicly sacrificed, showing ultimate vulnerability, was our crisis decision, so we now have our climactic action and climax. We resolve our loose ends, which should be done in order of least important to most. The housemates' kids arrive at home. Our hero hadn't forgotten, he'd sent one of his team to pick them up. The kids tell Mum to turn on the news where they see our hero preparing for the end. She can't let this happen, so begins to rally those around her to help. At the same time, our love interest Doctor finds out that he'd not stood her up on the date. There was some lapse in communication, which we'd have properly motivated and foreshadowed. In fact, he'd made some sweeping romantic gesture before heading off to try and save the city. She too must rally those around her to save him. He himself admits defeat and weakness and shows vulnerability to the crowd around him. But as the arch-nemesis goes to destroy him, he reveals the kryptonite, hurling them both towards death. But this won't do. The crowd are now his community, and they look after their own. Led by the housemate and the Doctor, the city itself comes together, and with strength in numbers, they opt to risk their lives to save our hero. Our obvious force of antagonism, the arch-nemesis, is defeated, and so too is our true force of antagonism, our hero's self-centered nature.
This is my family, but it's your family too.
He's sacrificed his conscious goal of regaining power in order to achieve his unconscious goal of reaching out to those around him, finding friendship, love, and acceptance.
I'm sorry about your hook.
Well, hook, no hook. I'm Maui.
We have a little bit of housekeeping to do. Ideally, we need to make sure we've freed our teammates who may still be imprisoned with the evil scientist, and we need to show that justice too comes to our scientist before our hero was saved from the kryptonite. You could show these elements in your resolution, but the neatest order would to have these resolved before your main plot, as they are less important. With that tidied up, all that's left to do is offer up our final image. This is the opposite of the opening image on page 1. We show the same world but demonstrate how it's changed, how our characters have grown and our controlling idea has been proven. Our hero enjoys his new life, finally going on that date with the Doctor, enjoying friendship with the housemate, and no longer struggling with the aspects of the world around him that cause such grief in our fun and games. Vulnerability is important because it helps you connect with those around you. Thank you for sticking with me. That was a lot to get through, but now we're well equipped to write a truly focused screenplay. Do check out the remaining videos in the 6-part series. Next up is Rhythm, where we'll break down how to make every scene count. Please like, subscribe, comment, share. If anything wasn't clear or you want more info, just let me know. See you on the next one.